What's going on, guys? You got Evan Knowles here and Logan Jones with the Middle Tech Podcast, and you're looking at the first iteration of our video.
Not bad.
Which is pretty crazy. It took us about 90 episodes to get into video, but we're trying. We're always iterating on what we're going to be providing you guys as a service to the ecosystem. We think that telling these stories is super important. So it's important for us to continue to improve what we're doing, so everybody can learn from these great founders. One of the big things we're doing this year is getting more into Louisville. So last season and the first season, we had some great interviews of founders in Louisville, but this year we're really starting to get into that, a lot more heavily, just because of the amount of great stories there are coming out of Louisville right now.
Yeah, we're working hard to connect the two cities. I mean, there's always this competition between Louisville and Lexington, the Cardinals and the Wildcats, but that's not the way to be, especially in a place as small as the state. And, ultimately we all want the Commonwealth to succeed. We want the state to do better. So this is kind of part of that effort that we're trying to take part in. But today we're sitting down with Mac Wilkinson and talking about his company Moolathon. And man, what a character Mac is. Yeah. He was awesome to interview, brought his little son, Mackie, with him, who was great entertainment the entire time. And we got to sit down at Story Louisville. And Story Louisville, I felt like I was in New York City.
I've been in a WeWork.
Yeah,
I've been in a WeWork.
I feel like I was in Kentucky.
That was impressive.
It's right on par with a WeWork. But we had a great conversation about Mac's background as an athlete at the University of Louisville, his company that he's building, which is just totally changing the way that we raise money and do philanthropy through fitness and exercise.
Awesome concept.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. And we talk a lot about what he's learned along the way building that company. So we had a great conversation with him. He was a lot of fun to sit down and talk to.
Ex-athlete.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah,
Okay.
U of L athlete, so maybe we don't want to give that as much credit, but no. In all seriousness, he was an awesome guest, and we're excited to get into it. So let's do it. All right, how's it going, guys? You got Logan Jones and Evan Knowles here in Story, Louisville. This space is awesome. Evan and I got to enjoy a nice car ride with a beautiful sunset up from Lexington today. And we are sitting here with Mac Wilkinson, the founder of Moolathon, to interview him about his company. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, man. We're glad to have you here.
All right. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I've met you a couple of times around Awesome Inc. You've done the 5 across pitch competition, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
In the fellowship there. So why don't you dive into your background real quick for us?
Well, my name is Mac Wilkinson. I am a lot of people may know me from playing basketball either locally at Ballard High School or at the University of Louisville. Also played at Howard University, and then I played internationally for 8 years. During college, unfortunately they don't let college athletes make money or have jobs, right?
Yeah.
Not yet. Anyway.
So just about every college athlete is trying to come up with some little,
soon.
Yeah. I know. God bless them. I hope it does work out.
Thank you,
know,
LeBron, big part of that.
Yeah, I'm about 15 years too late for that. I wish I was getting some of that action. But in my quest to try to find a way to make some extra cash, I started throwing some parties on campus, and it turned out that my flyers were like the hottest things about my party.
That's awesome.
So people were coming to me asking me, hey, can you design me a flyer like that and all that stuff? And that turned into websites and all kinds of things. And before I graduated, I was, full-fledged design and branding company.
Where'd you get the graphic design background in the first place?
Self-taught, man.
Yeah.
Self-taught, yeah, absolutely.
Did you look up to somebody that was already making flyers or what?
I've been in design my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm whether it's been architecture or cars, design is something that I've always been into. And sometime in high school, I know it sounded kind of like the nerdiest thing, but I got into like typography and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Steve Jobs was big into typography.
yeah, that's right.
That was like claims his most important class in
influenced the design of Apple.
That's right. That's right.
And about the throwing parties thing, I know another entrepreneur that got their start throwing parties during college was Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Elon Musk bought
Why
a
am
house.
I out of the loop on two of like my greatest heroes? I don't know these two things about my heroes.
Got so much in common.
I've actually heard that about Steve in the typography as well.
Yeah.
Typography.
But Elon Musk, him and a couple of friends got a big house and turned it into a club. So that's hilarious. That
is awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna do that with my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go more into you said you grew that digital. So you went from flyers and you're started getting into
so
digital?
I was lucky enough, being an athlete, I had some friends that went on to, I went on to play professional basketball internationally, but I had some friends to play in, the NBA and stuff. And, I was able to get on board with some big projects and work with some big companies. And, I guess I had my own design style and, people kind of took to it. And I was able to work for one big company named Anta, which is the second largest sports apparel brand in China. And what I was able to do is I was able to not only, design logos for athletes and work with apparel, but I was also able to get into like UI UX design when they didn't have UI UX designers to do certain things. Yeah. And it's just kind of like that. I actually designed my first app when Apple, this was one of the original iPhones, or the second iPhone, when they announced that they were opening it up to developers. Because if you remember the original iPhone, they didn't allow any developers. It was Apple in-house stuff only. And I wanted to design a social network to rival Facebook. Little did I know that Facebook could just create their own app.
Yeah.
But that was in the early days. So
what was it like balancing, athletics with this other side of you that was entrepreneurial and digital and design? 'Cause I feel like you don't hear as many stories like that with an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
It's always on the sport. It's not as much on what they do outside of the sport. Mm-hmm. What was that balance like for you, and what was that?
I think it was
like?
perfect. When I was in the dorm, I was always, whether it was looking at Steve Jobs or reading about Frank Lloyd Wright or Dieter Rams and his 10 principles of design or something like that. A big time design nerd, and I think just all my downtime in the dorms was reading about design and looking at design documentaries. To this day, I mean, all my favorite documentaries I watch are about architecture and design. So,
what's that Netflix one called?
Abstract.
Abstract, yes.
Yeah,
that was a great one.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not too many on. Unfortunately, this sounds kind of sad, but when I'm putting my son to sleep, I watch documentaries about 4 or 5 times a week. So I get a lot of documentaries
Learning,
in, man. Yeah, absolutely. That's like my downtime. When I decompress, I watch documentaries.
Yeah. So. Designers, they're fascinating people, man. They just look at the world differently. They take their perspective and they shove it into objects or technology, and you just get this unique perspective. I think it's the amazing thing about art and designers.
Design is everywhere. You can't do anything without design.
Absolutely.
Single thing that we're looking at in this room, somebody has
designed.
Space. Yeah.
Somebody designed an amazing space here in Story.
This space's story is a whole different. It's a different story because it's so. I feel like I'm in New York or something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so sleek and
absolutely.
That just speaks to the design. And,
I feel like. I mean, this may be biased, but I feel like architecture is probably the highest form of expression of design. I don't know. That's why
the only abstract episode I watched actually was the Bjarke Ingels.
Oh, I love him.
He's crazy, man.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. Yeah. He's young too, man. He grew up out of nowhere. A lot of people.
He didn't even go to college for architecture, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of other somewhat famous architects that don't give him a lot of credit or are kind of a little bit jealous of him. Some people say. Yeah. But Bjarke Ingels is the man.
Well, talk about your transition into entrepreneurship. Before you got on, you said you always like to answer the question of where the idea come from. Always throws you in a loop. So talk about that story of where Moolathon came from.
All right. So the only reason why that throws me for a loop is just because, like I said, how it started, the original idea is not at all what Moolathon evolved into. So I was running on the Big Four Bridge. If you're from Louisville, you know exactly what the Big Four Bridge is. It's a popular place, outdoor place to work out. And I was running with my running partner at the time, and we ran the same route like every single day, 4 or 5 times a week. And he, being into social media, looks at me and says, I wonder if I write my time down in chalk at the end of this bridge, will people, join in and start writing their times along too, and maybe make it a thing, maybe make it like a little local viral type thing or whatever. Yeah. And that was really awesome. And coincidentally, this happened to be every summer, my nephews from Atlanta come in. I got 4 nephews from Atlanta to come in, and 2 of them are twin boys, but this is during the Pokemon Go craze and everything.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And so they would have me take them to these Pokemon Go gyms, and we would literally be seeing like just random locations, 20, 30 other kids walking around with their phones trying to catch these little Pokemon.
It was crazy,
and stuff.
Man. It was like zombies walking around.
It was insane. But I remember hearing the rhetoric of some of the parents that were also there taking kids there or whatever, like, oh, well, at least they're getting outside and stuff. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, they're not actually doing anything, right? And so just in that running and hearing him say that and the timing of my nephews being there, I thought about, wow, what if there was like a virtual gym, because they called them on Pokemon Go, like the Pokemon Go gyms where you go battle people and get Pokemon and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What if there was like a virtual gym that had a virtual start point and a virtual end point, and people could go there and there would be a virtual leaderboard and you could compete, whether 6 or 650 people ran at that outdoor particular gym, in this case, the Big Four Bridge. Then you could compete. And I'm thinking from an athlete, competitive aspect, this will keep me in shape because I'm competitive and I want to compete to be the best. However, when I went home, I researched and found out that, not only did that not exist, but it was fulfilling a niche in the industry that I didn't know didn't exist, which is real world comparables, right? And so a lot of apps out there, they'll allow me and you to be friends, right? And be social about how we're working out. But I'm 6'8", 250 pounds. How I run a mile is completely different than how you might run a mile, right? Yeah. And so with gathering information and all that stuff, what we are able to do is we're able to not only see how you compare to be the best, right, and rank and amongst everyone, but we can also see how you rank amongst those of a similar age, of a similar height, of a similar weight, and you can break down those real world comparables.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were to summarize exactly what you're building right now, elevator pitch, talk about what is Moolathon.
So Moolathon is a social fundraising platform that's built on a fitness tracker, and it gives businesses, charities, groups, teams, and individuals the ability to raise money for a cause through the pursuit of a cause that everyone can relate to, which is getting fit.
Yeah. Let's break it down a little bit. So for those people that maybe haven't been tracking, the wearables space a whole lot. Talk about what wearables are, some brands they might be familiar with.
Well, actually, we're launching iPhone only, and we plan on being available on the Apple Watch within a month.
Nice.
So wearables are just about everything. As the statistics show, just about everyone is still exercising with their phone, over 60% of the industry. But more so than anything, people are trending towards wearables, which is like Apple Watches and Garmin's and things like that. Yeah. So
you're taking that data and then you're doing what with it on the app? You're putting it into a digestible form.
Oh, we'll get to how it evolved into what it is later, but I'll tell you how Moolathon works. Moolathon works in two ways. If you're an individual looking to raise money for a cause with the miles that you personally run or walk, you create a campaign. You share that with friends and family via social media and email, and then they pledge a dollar amount per mile, limited to a maximum number of miles they set. So you set up a campaign, and I say, I'm willing to give you $2 a mile for every mile you walk or run or bike, up to 50 miles. What I'm really telling you is I'm willing to give you $100, but you have to go out and earn it. And now you go out and wherever you are, you track your mileage with Moolathon, and every mile that you run earns a bit more of each contributor's pledge. So, and that quickly adds up, this person giving you $2, $1 over here, $2 over here. Next thing you know, you're making $5 a mile. Yeah. The other way that Moolathon works is via virtual event. We help expand the fundraising reach of schools, charities, just about any group of people, any organization or group of people. And how we do that is we allow them to create virtual events, and they send it out. It creates a link, and they send that out to their supporters via email and social media. And then people can then sign up for that event and then participate in that event anytime, anywhere. So they can use the fitness tracker to participate in a 5K. And so you can imagine that now you don't have to, ask people to wake up at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday to come show up. And that's actually the reason why those events, they actually have like a lot of overhead and pretty bad returns, conversion rates as far as like getting people to sign up. So it's actually less than a 5% conversion rate to get someone to actually come to your event. So to get 100 people to show up, for example, you would have usually had to ask over 2,000 people to show up. And that's usually just because it's an inconvenient experience. So we're adding that element of convenience to it.
That's a really exciting idea because you're scaling that concept, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be there in a physical location. If they do a 5K here to support breast cancer for people in Louisville, well, if somebody might have moved from Louisville to New York and wants to participate because they have ties here in Louisville,
absolutely,
they can participate now.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, groups and organizations have, been interested in us for two ways. either as a virtual extension to a physical event that they're already having. So they can have that physical event. And like I said, they have less than a 5% conversion rate because it's an inconvenient experience. So now they can use Moolathon, they can have that event and then use Moolathon to offer that event for another 30, 60, or 90 days virtually. So it allows them to reach more people. Also, people like AAU teams and basketball teams and things like that, they're able to use this as a low overhead option. You know, they don't have to use all the money and stuff like that to go through it.
I think what excites me about this whole thing is how I could see this going so viral and just raising a large sum of money in one fell swoop. I mean, you know, you get a celebrity on there that's like, hey, I want everyone to join in on this 5K with me. And then everyone starts, you know, that can turn into millions of dollars raised just with one event. That sounds so exciting to me.
Well, which brings us to, like, you know, one of our big go-to-market strategies. You know, we're very lucky to have Rajon Rondo, point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers, involved with the company. And, you know, he's very excited about the idea. You know, all these professional athletes have foundations. You know, a lot of them are looking for creative ways to give back to their community and inspire feel-good approaches like, you know, fitness, for example.
Yeah. You know, let's go through, you know, your progress as a company. So you had the idea, and then Logan mentioned that you pitched at 5 Across. Talk about some of the milestones that you've had so far, and you know, your experiences with those.
Yeah, absolutely. So Awesome Inc., I think in general has been a blessing to us. Not only were we able to compete in 5 Across, but just the resources that Awesome Inc. provides, and we were lucky enough to be invited to take part in the Awesome Inc. Fellowship. Yeah. You know, which has been great for us. But aside from Awesome Inc., in 2019 we won the Vote Award. I say 2019 like that was more than 2 months ago.
It's February.
Yeah. So, but we won a Vote Award, and we were able to participate in the Vote Accelerator. And, you know, that was a really great experience. It was 10 weeks, and we were able to raise a little grant money. Yeah, we've just been involved in a lot of things, just growing, building the product. We started testing in March of 2019, and that experience has been really amazing for us, just how the product has evolved, listening to customers, and sort of crafting that user experience.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that listening to customers and crafting the user experience here when we talk about your learnings. But let's dig into a few more questions with the company. How did you go about building the team? Is it you? Talk about what your team looks like.
Yeah, so right now it's myself. You probably know a couple of guys that I've got working with me up at Awesome Inc. So we've got Tommy Warner, who's our lead iOS developer. Gary Deach, who's been helping us with some development.
Who kind of gave us the plug for you.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Gary's the man. You know, there's no, it's crazy. I don't think there's any more perfect person to join the Moolathon team than Gary. This guy is not only a marathoner, but he's a coach, a running coach that helps other people run marathons. He's even competed in some ultra marathons and stuff. And he is a developer and is a product manager and stuff. So it's like, you know, it's like a match made in heaven. So
no, I mean, seriously, I see Gary post on Instagram running like 15 miles at a time.
Yeah.
Hey, Lord, he gets somebody pledging a couple dollars.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's funny too. Gary wrote an awesome article. He sent it to me. And this was just before he had joined the team, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And he said in the article, and this was unprompted, we had probably lost touch. I probably hadn't talked to him in like 3 months or something like that. And this article, he said, I'm inspired by what the guys at Moolathon are doing, right? And that was really cool to me. And he did like a sort of like an analog version. He wanted to do like an analog fundraiser. And he said, you know, he reached out, he sent it to me, and I hadn't talked to him in months. And he said, this could be a really good, like, you know, customer discovery type of thing for you guys. Yeah. And we touched base, and, you know, we took off from there. And like I said, Gary's been sort of the perfect team member to jump on board.
Yeah. And you said some of your team's distributed too. Talk
Matt. So Matthew Gatner, he's helping us do like a lot of our like fallback pages and things like that. He's also helping us with some of our payment stuff. He's based out of North Carolina. So we had another guy here that was helping us just on some freelance stuff here in Louisville. And then we've got people like Rajon, who's, you know, sort of going to be helping us.
Well, he's everywhere.
He's traveling, but he's more of like the recruiter and the mouthpiece for us and stuff. So, absolutely.
Talk about the biggest challenges you've faced so far. So far in your journey, what's been maybe one or two of the things that you felt you had caused you the most stress or biggest learning curve?
Well, I think anybody in technology will probably say, I mean, is definitely getting a product to market. Yeah, no matter how much you think you know, until you get that product in the customer's hands, it's really, I mean, there's just so many moving pieces, especially with us. I mean, we're converting miles to money and, working with charities, organizations, and individuals. And it's really something that's never really been done before. We're combining two industries, which is crowdfunding and fitness. And just you think you got it figured out, and then somebody finds another hole in something. So
yeah, I think for anybody wanting to start a company, what you just mentioned, that part of the process when you're beginning to test the market, speak to the market, understand if this is an issue, understand if it's something they're going to buy. Talk about how you go about that process. Are you emailing these people? Are you visiting them in person? Are you calling? How are you going about this process?
Yeah, so pretty much we've been, getting the app into people's hands, and we've been, just communicating with those people. Of course, the app has built-in feedback stuff, but emails, feedback, and newsletters is pretty much how it is. Okay. Lucky enough through the tech community, through places like Story, I've probably met 20 or 30 of our testers in this building right here. Yeah. So just meeting people, telling them about the product, and people just excited enough. And then also too, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but just sort of choosing the right people to test, the ones that are going to give you that feedback that the
honest feedback.
Well, I mean, it's a mixture too. I mean, when I say choosing the right people, it's not just saying only like techie people who can give you techie feedback. I mean, my mother is, someone you need to understand how the user behavior of just about anyone. Yeah. So
I mean, you need to have people testing it who are going to be able to break it in some way.
Yes, absolutely.
Have somebody that's good.
Poke holes.
If you only put it in the hands of people who understand how to use technology really well, then you're missing out on all this feedback.
100%.
Not everyone that is going to get your app is going to know exactly how to use a phone. So that's the feedback that's probably most important.
Most important, hands down. And how they see the app, from a user experience perspective, their behavior while they're on the app. It's the technical person is going to figure out.
You got to look over your shoulder too and watch them sometimes. Watch how they navigate it, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How do you go about, you said you had some in-app feedback. What does that look like?
It's mostly screenshots and email. It's kind of like a screenshot email type thing.
Got it.
So just about anyone who's tested an app on test flight is familiar with beta feedback. But we also, most of the people that are testing our platform are also on our email list. So we also email people directly. Like when they give us feedback, we email them people directly. We have a newsletter that goes out. There's endless ways. Just about everywhere you go, when people know you're the founder of a company, they've got, they've got feedback for you. It would be interesting if I could do this on the app, or.
Let's talk about some of that feedback. What are some of the things that you got feedback on that you maybe didn't expect, or they were totally out of the blue?
I've got a list of things in my head that are so fresh because we actually just had our call before I came up here. But I mean, little things. I mean, I can tell you things we discussed today, like. In the app, there's a search and discover page that has like a unified list, and people are like, this is a little too confusing. There's campaigns and events all within a unified list. And so talking to the team and trying to simplify that and make it easier for users to access their information, how the profile looks, how they access different things on the profile. It's literally so many things. It's so much. So, yeah.
Well, for a second, talk like big picture next couple of years. Do you have any big directions you want to take this, new ideas that maybe in the next few iterations of this app, of this platform, what do you ultimately want it to look like?
Yeah, I have a full development roadmap, and I think the end game, or the end goal, or how I see it right now developing into, is we want to monetize fitness, right? And I see us eventually, and this is way big picture, possibly, turning into like a Groupon meets fitness type of thing, to where we can sort of start, encouraging businesses to encourage people to be healthier. So using augmented reality and machine learning, people placing things like Moolacoin outside of your favorite coffee shop. So to get 2% off of a discount, you do 5 push-ups or something like that. Cool. So using fitness tracking to help people get, discounts. I don't want to go too much into something that I haven't built yet. So
That's cool.
but yeah.
Hey, somebody's still got to build it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea is a small part of a company.
It's man, I tell you what, anybody can have ideas.
Yeah.
It's executing
There you
them.
go.
Yeah. I was on a podcast. Someone was asking me about that the other day, and I was like, listen, anyone can have ideas. It's the people that can actually execute and persevere through all the roadblocks that you're going to hit along the way too. That's the crazy part.
It's always funny when people like hold ideas too close to the chest.
Yeah.
My philosophy is like, if I have a good idea, I'm trying to tell anybody that might be able to give me any kind of feedback. So
Yeah.
I want people to poke holes in it.
Yeah. So at my so there's two different things. There's ideas that that you should definitely throw on the wall and see what sticks, right? But then there's also when you're building a product and there's something that you haven't had there's something you're going to build, but you haven't raised the money to build yet, or that you haven't, so it's like, there's those things too. So the latter you don't want to share as much of.
Yeah. Well, this is a very regional podcast. So if somebody's out there, in Silicon Valley with all this tech,
you guys are just asking me about big picture. You got to think big picture too.
No, we are. Don't worry. Let's actually go small picture. Let's bring it into Louisville.
Okay.
Talk about your experience here in Louisville so far. We like to always, towards the end of these episodes, give the markets or the ecosystems that we're in feedback, just like you got with the product. Because part of our mission is to improve the ecosystem through stories, but also so these entrepreneurs can say what they need to say in order to improve the ecosystem, right? So let's start with the good things. The pros that you've noticed in the Louisville market, or Lexington market, because you spent a lot of time in Lexington. Yeah. Let's just say between Louisville and Lexington, major pros that you've seen or felt in the markets.
Well, accessibility is big here. If
to other
there's
people,
somebody
to the
you
network.
think the network, to other people, usually once you're sort of in this network, if there's somebody you can think of that's doing something cool, you can reach out pretty easily within a phone call or two and get a hold of someone. And that's probably the coolest part about like what's going on here is accessibility. We have founders beers once a month. That's like, you meet all the tech founders from the city and even from Lexington, a few of them. We sit down and have beers and we talk. I don't think there's a lot of ecosystems. There's probably ecosystems that have groups and cliques of people that do that. But in Louisville, I mean, it's 2 degrees of separation in almost any direction. Yeah. So that's
the good thing about being in a city that's big but not too big.
Right. Absolutely.
We're not New York or San Francisco. LA or anything like that. That 2 degrees of separation, I think, is hugely important for this area, and it keeps everyone connected. And then on top of that, you have this layer of people being willing to collaborate. Yes. And willing to work together. Yes. And then when you combine those two, I just hope that we stay on the pace that we've seen recently. It's hard telling what this area could do. Yeah, absolutely. If it stays on that pace. Absolutely.
I mean, with just this podcast, and we've said this so many. Like that's one of the biggest things that our guests say as a pro. Yeah, and we feel it because we have never had anybody turn us down for an episode. Like, we reach out to somebody, mostly on LinkedIn. I reached out to you on LinkedIn. Yeah, say hey, what's up? You come back. Here we are. Probably I've reached out to you 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, absolutely. Here we are. So like that's the kind of vibe that I love about this region is that willingness to just get out there and meet people and help. Yeah, absolutely. So I love it. Cons, what needs to improve? What have you been annoyed by?
Well, I wouldn't say annoyed by anything, but I do think that, not at our own fault, but just because of the position that we've been in, we are somewhat of a follower city. It does take us to look at what someone else is doing. And you'll hear people all the time say things like, we want to be the next Austin, or we want to be the next, whatever, which is fine. That's totally fine. But it also doesn't leave as much room for innovation and, carving your own path type things. But I do think that Louisville, I hate to be, I guess people outside of Louisville don't know it's cliche, but I hate to be somewhat cliche and say I do think that Louisville has potential to be that next Austin. When you combine the network that's here, like we just talked about, when you combine the fact that it's low cost of living, actually only 6 companies won a vote award that I was telling you about. It's sort of a big deal around here. And one of the guys that started another company, Borderless Rafi, moved here from New York. Off the strength of, cost of living, resources. Yes. And he did his research. And he actually, I thought it was a cool story because he actually was thinking, where can I move to start my company? And he chose Louisville. So
it's kind of like what Gary V says about building your own brand. Louisville is essentially building their own brand as a city. Embrace basketball, embrace bourbon, embrace horse racing, healthcare. You know, be Louisville, but just copy some of the things that Austin's doing well. You don't have to be exactly like Austin.
Yeah,
keep the culture.
Keep the culture. Copy a little bit of maybe the community aspect and the way that they handle their startup community down there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, just be Louisville. You know, be Kentucky.
I think we're one element away. I think, you know, if we start getting some like real money influx in here, I think that, you know, we'll start to see that. We'll start to see entrepreneurs moving from other states to come here to start companies.
That's one of the other things we hear as a con is access to capital, especially angel. And
it's
seed.
definitely the biggest con, I would say, is access to capital. And almost unless you're in the healthcare industry. I mean, it seems like, you know, healthcare, everything here is healthcare related. So healthcare companies get funded, I'm not going to say easily, but more often than other tech companies.
And here's a question along with those lines is, do you think the capital might be here, but the cultural idea of startups and funding that kind of, that portion of maybe a portfolio, which is higher risk, but higher reward. Do you think the culture is a part of that? Do you think the money's here, or do you think it's just truly the money's not here?
No, I think, you know, a lot of the big money that's here and the older money that's here, it's tied to like horse racing and Ford and safe bets and things like that. And I do think that we need to inject some of that okay to fail type of thing. You know, that's one of the biggest things about Silicon Valley. I mean, it probably hurt them in the long run. I don't know if you can say Silicon Valley's hurt, but it's somewhat, you know, lessen their image a little bit, is that okay to fail mentality. But you have to have that. You have to have risk takers and people who aren't so, you know, people who are a little bit more loose with their wallet, so that, you know, the community can
Giving
grow.
people opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you're only going to get some of those big Uber stories and things like that if you do have some people that are taking those risks. And I think that's probably what Louisville is missing. We're missing capital, and we need one of those big Uber stories. Like, you know, there were several stories out of Austin that was like, you know, look, see, you know,
exact target.
Yeah. So we need like a big breakout story, I think.
Yeah.
As we sit in Story Louisville, but,
but on brand.
Yeah.
You want to dive into the learnings now? What are some of your biggest learnings starting Moolathon?
In relation to the app itself, or in relation to the business? Or?
If you have two different learnings for each one, then
dive
into each of them.
Yeah. Well, you know, the app is ever evolving. I mean, I don't think, hopefully we'll never stop learning with a product. I guess that would probably be something that anybody who's developing a product would hope for. Hopefully we're always learning with the app, and we continue learning. I think the biggest thing is probably just saying yes, saying yes to this podcast. That's how we get here.
Yeah.
Saying yes to pitch competitions and things like that. And, I'm pitching next month at Venture Connectors, which is sort of like a huge thing. We were talking about capital. Mm-hmm. Venture Connectors is actually one of the few places where a lot of people with capital sort of gather in one place. So yeah, I'd say just saying yes to things probably is the biggest thing. Just taking advantage of every opportunity.
Yeah, and we always like to end the podcast on a forward-looking statement. I think you're going to do a good job of this because you're from Louisville, you're an athlete here. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the city of Louisville going? I think you might have touched on this a little bit a second ago, but talk about your forward-looking statement for Louisville and kind of weave in, Moolathon a little bit with that. Yeah,
I would love for Louisville. Man, I just said it was so cliche, but I would love for Louisville to become that next city where, like I said, people are looking to move here because of the advantages they see in the landscape. I would really take pride in being one of the companies that grows here, hires people from here, hires people from other places, diversifies. I think, the big picture for Louisville is and Microsoft sees these things too. Microsoft is investing.
They're
money.
here for a reason.
They're here for a reason. I mean, and from what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is hearsay, but we've got more companies that are using machine learning and with these logistics companies, which is one of the big reasons why Microsoft is coming here, with Amazon and Zappos and UPS, and all these companies are big time logistics companies and stuff. And yeah, I just think, if we can get some of that big KFC, UPS, Amazon money into the hands of entrepreneurs so that they can build cool things, then this city will be exactly where it's supposed to be.